This is the first chapter of the volume trading. This is volume imbalance. This is a basic lesson. This is something that you need to understand in order to understand the next lessons that you're going to learn in volume trading. So the very first thing that you need to understand is what is volume imbalance. So you already know what an imbalance is, right? So the imbalance forms in three consecutive candles, and it forms on the body of the candle. So if you take a look at this chart, look at the candle. So you have this is the wick of the candle, this is the body of the candle, right? So if you see these candles, the body of the candles, they overlap. You see that this candle's body overlaps with this candle's body, and so on and so forth. See, all of these candles overlap. The body of the candles, they overlap. So this one overlaps with this one overlaps with this one, right? It doesn't here. So if you see this candle, the bodies, they don't overlap. There is a small gap between the body of the candles, and only the wicks overlap, right? It is very minor, right? It is really, really small. But if you go to the lower time frame, it is more evident. So here there is another one of those volume imbalances, right? On the 1 hour. So if you see these are volume imbalances. So the normal fair value gap is here. If you mark it out, it is here. And as opposed to this one, let me change the colors so you can differentiate. So here, this is a normal fair value gap on the body of the candle, and this is the volume imbalance which occurs on the wick of the candle, not on the body of the candle. That's the difference between volume imbalance and the normal imbalance. So see, this is a volume imbalance. The body of the candle, they don't overlap. Only the wick of the candle overlaps, right? So this is volume imbalance. So first you understand what volume imbalance is, right? So then the next step is to understand which time frame to use this concept. So this volume imbalance is more prevalent and more um, efficient on the lower time frame than higher time frame, even though we saw it on the 1 hour time frame. You see a volume imbalance here. See, the imbalance is formed. See, it fills, right? So no matter which time frame it is gonna work. However, if you see that on the lower time frame, it is very efficient, and it is higher probability than fair value gap, but lower probability than balanced price range. That is a disrespected fair value gap, right? So if you see, let's see if we can find any other volume imbalances here on the lower time frame. Overlaps, overlaps, overlaps. I don't see any volume imbalance here. So far, everything overlaps. Okay, here. You see there is a volume imbalance formed here, right? So when it hits, if you go to the 1 minute time frame, so when it hits, it goes down. Even though it's not much, you could still trade this like 3%. That's not a big deal, but when you go to 15 minutes chart, let me try and see if we can find. Okay, so this is a volume imbalance on the 15 minutes, right? So it comes down, the volume imbalance is formed, it goes up. When it hits, it starts coming down. This is a drawdown of 4% to the previous support. So they're pretty decent for a scalp trade, right? So that's what I mean. So the volume imbalance is much more efficient, because fair value gap can be respected or can be disrespected. If it gets disrespected, your trade will not materialize, right? You have to consider that a loss position, and then you go for a short position and take a trade in the opposite direction and the BPR, right? However, volume imbalance is more accurate than fair value gap. It does not get disrespected for the most part, right? So you can use it on any time frame, and you can use it on any asset class. It can be crypto, or it can be stocks, it can be forex. You can use it on any asset class. And what's the difference between fair value gap and volume imbalance? That's what I was talking about when I was explaining what um, fair value gap is, right? And then the probability is more compared to fair value gap and less compared to balanced price range, right? And when to use it, I use it mostly for scalping and not on higher time frame. But if you see it, I don't really see it much on the higher time frame. It is really hard to notice one on the higher time frame. So, let's take a look at the chart. See, everything overlaps, overlap, overlap, overlap. It just overlaps. It's really hard to find a volume imbalance on higher time frame, but if you do find it, it is really high probability to return back to that place, right? So take a look at this chart. It's S&P. So here, you have this volume imbalance. It went up pretty significantly, but still it came down and filled the volume imbalance before it starts going up, right? So it is pretty, it's high probability, right? When you see a volume imbalance on any time frame, just consider that it's gonna return back to it at some point in time. But what you need to understand is that, when you see a fair value gap, you see this is a fair value gap, right, on the daily time frame. So what happened? It precisely fills the fair value gap. It's either 50% or 25%, mostly 50% plus or 75%. It fills before it goes down. So this is like accurate. You have a specific range for you to enter a trade, right? But it's not the same case with volume trading. So the volume trading is like, you have the gap here. It came down here, but it did not, touch the volume imbalance and go up, right? Similarly, like, if you see, this is the chart of Filecoin, and you see that it came down, but it did not fill the volume imbalance. It almost did, but it did not fill just like it fills the regular or the fair value gap. So that's the issue with volume trading. Using it as an entry point. You cannot use it as an entry point. You can just use it as a reference point, and for an entry, you should be using BPR or fair value gap. Just know that this acts like a magnet and it's going to pull towards it at some point in time. So just understand that it is going up and up and up. There is a volume imbalance. It has to come down and fill that before it goes up. So you can center your entry around this, but not exactly on that area. You can use fair value gap or a BPR for entry, but this is just a reference point. All right. I hope you understood what volume imbalance is, and I'll talk to you in the next chapter of volume trading series. And thank you so much for listening. You have a good one. Bye.